just need extra.
That I think that you see just automatic forgiveness when it comes to black people being harmed or killed or injured by people who classify themselves as white. We don't hear people who are white if they have feel they have sustained some injury or harm from a black person. We don't hear them saying, I forgive, I forgive, I forgive. And I was saying in a talk recently, no one asked the white females who lined up and were accusing Bill Cosby of having sexually or date raped them. And no white person would say to them, one or more, or all of them, a long time has passed. Don't you think it's time for you to forgive Mr. Cosby? Nobody would ever think of that. Do you see, nor would anybody think to ask a Semite of the Jewish religion, well, have you forgiven the German people? Have you forgiven the Nazis for what they did? Do you see? Nobody would even think of saying that. So I think that it is a part of black people's tradition from the time of enslavement. Do you see, where the slave master could beat the black person, and I could just envision the black person being beaten, and the slave master or the slave mistress would be saying, say that you forgive me. Do you see? And then giving them another lash. Say that you forgive me. And so the black person doesn't have a choice but to say, I forgive, master. I forgive. I forgive. I forgive. And I don't want to show any disrespect to the mother of Mr. Walker. I mean, I certainly understand what has happened to black people and where that pattern comes in. When we were in formal slavery, I heard a white female explain to a young black man, this was at a Race Relations Institute a number of years ago, and the young black man in a small group discussion, he said, I don't believe in racism, I'm a Christian. And an older white female said to him, son, we, meaning we white people, gave you that tradition. We gave you that religion. And we emphasized three things. Slave, obey your master. Turn the other cheek, and you will get your reward in heaven. And so that is the yoke that black people, I say by and large, are still under. And most black people are not thinking about or understanding that we are in a total system structure of racism. Well, see, you can't run an oppressive state or plantation or a prison and have the inmates become angry at the jailer. So if possible, you engage in the psychological warfare of teaching them a philosophy of forgiveness. Now, the prisoner or the slave on the plantation hasn't been let free. The prisoner in the prison hasn't been said, "We forgive you, and so your sentence is terminated." No one is speaking to the prisoner or the slave on the plantation in that way. But the plantation is run by beating, well, first and foremost, I would say, and maybe somebody will be offended, I would hope not, that when you give the enslaved Africans an image of God that is the same image of the slave master, and say that you must behave yourself so that this image of God, which is the same image as the slave master, so that God will love you and admit you into heaven. You must forgive the slave master. Now, that was the position that black people were in for hundreds of years during the years of formal enslavement. And what could they do about it when they were beaten and killed at whim? You see, and so that's when these ideas were implanted, and we must begin to step back and view them more objectively and understand that this is an aspect of the maintenance of oppression. And those black people who are admonishing black people that they should forgive, I would say that those people have been harmed by having their self-respect as black people annihilated, whether they're conscious of it or whether they are subconscious. And if we as black people decide that we are going to respect ourselves, and this is one of the things that has happened to black people in the 500 years of our oppression, including the phase of slavery, formal slavery, is that black self-respect has been completely annihilated. And so, we say, okay, I forgive, and then we take the pain and frustration out on each other. It's just like in South Africa, truth and reconciliation. So the people who brutalize black people are allowed to go unpunished. But the pain that is inside of black people goes out towards one another. And the system of racism, white supremacy, continues. So I am making the recommendation for black people's mental health that black people take the position that all of these things that we are dealing with, the killing of black men every week, every other day, the incarceration of black men, the unjust sentencing, gentrification, the removal of black people from urban centers across this country, that all of this is the face of racism, white supremacy. And black people have to take the position. We're not going to be in the position of saying we forgive. No, what we're going to insist upon is, number one, that racism, white supremacy as a total system structure be recognized. And number two, when that system has been brought to an end and replaced with a system of justice, then the consideration of forgiveness, if that won't even be in order, because the system of injustice will have been removed and a system of justice established. Now, that's my position as a black psychiatrist. And I would say that I'm certainly recommending that as important for black people's mental health in this system, that the foundation of the position is that we are going to have respect for ourselves second to none. And instead of denying and making apologies for the system of racism, white supremacy, that we are going to hold people who classify themselves as white, because the only reason for the white classification is to take advantage of the established and structured system of racism, white supremacy, and that we are going to hold people who classify themselves as white responsible. We're not going to spend any time hating white people, but we are going to hold every person who classifies him or herself as white responsible for changing the system. If they want to take a position that they're not racist, well, then stop the people who classify themselves as white who are. Don't come and join black people. Take the John Brown position and stop the people who are engaging in the practice of racism, white supremacy. And, that's not just calling somebody nigger or the N-word if you want to play euphemisms. But no, the system of racism, as stated by Neely Fuller, functions in all areas of people activity: economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war.
The oppression of black people has deep historical roots and it's perpetuated by various societal, political, and economic factors. Here are some key reasons why black people continue to face oppression. Historical legacy of slavery. The transatlantic slave trade forcibly brought millions of Africans to the Americas as slaves, where they were subjected to brutal exploitation, dehumanization, and violence. The legacy of slavery has left lasting scars on black communities, shaping their social economic status and experiences of oppression. Institutionalized racism. Systemic or institutionalized racism refers to the ways in which policies, practices, and structures within society perpetuate racial inequality. These include disparities in areas such as education, employment, housing, healthcare, and the criminal justice system. Discriminatory laws and practices such as Jim Crow laws and redlining have
But everyone has a different story to tell. Shell, which says it's losing its
The Tampa market. Mood started to rise.
In Northeast Africa, precisely on the horn of Africa.
but the local farmers.
Good afternoon, folks. Once again, this is Frank. I am your host. This is WCC, and which has correlation, right? So this is a Sunday edition of WCC, uh, the educational lecture series of repatriation back to Africa, right? So when we also say back to Africa, right, it doesn't mean you should get in plane and just go back to Africa, right? It's also about knowing your roots, your history, and connecting the past to the present and how we can unite. All right. So you don't have to be in Africa to fight for the people outside Africa, and you don't have to be outside of Africa to fight for the people outside of Africa. We just have to look at what is affecting us outside Africa and us inside Africa, and who are the people affecting the people outside Africa, and who are the people affecting the people inside Africa. And if we do that, we only have one enemy. And the enemy are the colonizer, the enslaver, the oppressor, the imperialist, the capitalist, and all the list and all the zim. All right. Now, to that topic, we are actually going to South Africa. They just ended election and the result of the election. Once again, this is WCC. We critically examine issues and see why did it happen that way. So we don't really look at the reaction of people, right? We want to see what led to the reaction. That's what WCC is based on, right? So we want to see what led to a behavior, not the behavior. We are not focusing on the behavior. You know, this is why, right? This is why African problems are hard to solve, because we pay attention to the behavior instead of finding out the causes of the behavior. You see, here it is. The non-Africans, and when I say non-Africans, I mean the European, you know who I'm talking about, the colonizer, the imperialists, right? The enslaver, right? They are the one we are speaking to here. You know what they do? They do not look at the reaction of African. No, they don't look at the reaction of Black people. You know what they see? They look at what causes the reaction. So when for each time Black people are talking about uniting, right? They don't have problem with we uniting. They don't. They do not have problem with we uniting. What they have problem with is what will be the cause? What will be the effect? Sorry, not the cause, but what will be the effect to them if we unite? All right. So their focus is not on African unity or Black unity. No, their focus is what will be the effect on them if African unite, if Africa unite, if Black people unite. What will be the effect on them? This is where now they are coming from to make sure we can unite. All right. This is where now they come in to make sure, no, if African unite, this is what's going to happen to non-African, to non-Black, to the enslaver, to the colonizer, to the oppressor. That's where they come from. But you see, we Africans, we do not do that. You know, for each time the colonizer or the European make decisions, right? We do not see why. We do not go beyond to see why they are doing it. All we know, like for example, one of the most common talk about, all right, topic now is climate change. You know, where people come, or Joe Biden, or the so-called Prime Minister of England, and so-called whosoever they are, right? When they meet African, they talk about climate change, or climate this, or climate that. We Africans, we don't critically think. We have a lot of issues on our hands, and we speak on a lot of issues pertaining to Africans or pertaining to Black people. But these people do not recognize it. They don't pay attention, right? We don't ask those critical questions. We don't say, but why these people, when they come to us with issues, instead of us to digest it and see if it is in our favor, right? We don't do that. We just take it, oh yes, it's coming from Europe, it's coming from America, it's coming from the West, it's coming from the white man. And then we honor it and we value it, not knowing it is actually against our existence. It is actually against our survival. It is actually against our survival. Let me give you another example. Let me give you another scenario. With the issues of Gaza and Palestine, I know we've been talking about it, but we will always talk about it. Let me give you this scenario. With the issue of Gaza and Palestine, Gaza, Palestine, and Israel, right? what do we notice? South Africa, all right, or the Africans, along with the United Nations. So Africans have taken a case, all right, to the United Nations against Israel of committing genocide in Palestine against the Palestinians. Now, what did the European, the colonizer, because these people, they know what is good for them and they know what is bad for them. Unlike Africans, we do not know what is good for us and we do not know what is bad for us. We don't. But them, they know what is good and they know what is bad. And them, they care the hell and the BS about global village, about global society. They care the BS, they don't care. When it comes to their survival and their existence, they do not care. Now, they went against peace resolution, right? In Palestine and Gaza. They went against peace resolution between Russia and Ukraine. Now, ask yourself, why would they do that? I mean, these are people, the US, the UK, or the European Union, right? These are people who sat down deliberately, intentionally, right? And said they do not want peace in Palestine, in Ukraine, in Gaza. Why? Because it is not in their favor for Ukraine and Russia to have peace. It is not in their favor for Palestine, Israel, or Gaza to have peace in our region. It is not in their favor. And they went against it. They went against it. They know it is not in their favor. It will harm them. It will harm their interests. They don't care. But when it comes to Africans, we do not know what is best in the interest for African. We don't know. Europeans decide what is best and what is bad for African. America decide what is best and what is bad for Africans. Now, don't think I am off the topic. The topic today is says, reasons led to the outcome of the South Africans election 2024. We are not looking at because the ANC struggled or because the DA came second and then the MK came third and then the EFF came fourth. We are not looking at that. We are looking at what in the first place. How did they get to that place? In the first place, how did they get to that place? In the first place, how can a racist political party like the DA or the Democratic Alliances, so-called, come second? Come second in a black nation. Look, it baffles me. I can't understand. I cannot understand. I cannot comprehend. How can, let me say this. Let me say this. Let me say this. In America here, you have a black political party that have a black agenda, like the DA in a black nation. Like the DA in a black nation, right? Right? Who have white agenda, who have minority agenda, right? I want you to understand something here. You have a black political party in the US who have black agenda. And they're going to contest in the American election coming November, right? 2024. And you expect that black political party to come second. That political, listen to this, folks. That political party will not even come 4th, 5th. That alone to come second in America here. When vividly, the mainstream media have seen that a black political party go with black agenda, period. And you expect that organization or that political party of black agenda to come second in an American election. You must be dreaming. You must be dreaming. just group of black people that rally up in this country to talk about black interests. Those groups are being suppressed, oppressed. That you're talking about a political party. How can a racist Democratic Alliance parties in a black nation come second? These are the questions we should be asking and to look beyond. Why? Not just to come up here and say, yeah, South Africa is changing. We have now a white political party who is competing, and then the rainbow nation, we truly have a rainbow nation. That's the true meaning of or definition of a rainbow nation. You will be taking exactly the definition, the meaning, the thoughts of the racist white people, the racist DA. You will be taking the meaning of apartheid. What apartheid? That's what you'll be going with. Colonial education is what you'll be going with. And that is why on this platform, we don't think how people think. We make people uncomfortable. Because the more you make people uncomfortable, that's the time they come in a right frame of mind. And the more you make people comfortable enough, and they do nothing. When you are comfortable, you do nothing. When you are uncomfortable, that's the time you do something. So we are here to look beyond. Why did it go that way? What have the DA in South Africa, in black South Africa, in black nation, what have the DA done in the life to advocate for Africans before they come in second in an election? Gladly, we can see. Now, these are the same DA that label the EFF, who are always voice for the struggle of the people since after Nelson Mandela. EFF have always pointed out the issues of the people. How can an EFF come fourth, sorry? And then racist D8 who said they will never ally, they will never form an alliance with EFF because EFF have the notion or the mandate of nationalization of the mine and the banks. And you expect change to come to South Africa. And then they lie to you, talking about national unity. You see, Marco Garvey said, one who does not know his or her history is like a tree standing by the bank of a river and not knowing how to make use of that river. Not knowing that river could be a help to his or her survivor. So that is what we are here to examine. We are not looking at what happened to say, oh, change had come to South Africa. Change, in fact, things have become worse. They are going back to apartheid time. But again, who can we blame? That's why we are here today to analyze. Who can we blame? Who can we blame? That's why we are here to analyze today. We're not here to come and talk about, oh, national unity, South Africa is changing. That's how African nation should be. That's how, no. South Africa is going back to the 90s. Whether they like it or not, whether they want to call me names, whether they want to say what they want to say, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm saying it. You can call me what you want to call me. I see it coming. I see it coming. Disaster is coming. Now, you may say, oh, why he's talking like this? He don't like Africa. He don't this. I can die for Africa. But the reality here is, when the prophecies come, we might say it. What you see, what have mainstream media portrayed about Africa? What have they now say about development and prosperity between the West and Africa? Have you seen that development and prosperity? For someone to come and tell you, say, national unity? This is not the first time for national unity in South Africa. Until 1994 was national unity. Why did it not happen? 1994. This is not the first time for national unity. You see, if one who does not know his history will never understand the future. In order to understand the current happening and the future, you have to understand the past. You have to understand your history. This is not the first time for national unity. But you see, mainstream media have come out, Western mainstream media, and some of the petit bourgeoisie African have come out to like, oh, this is national unity, it's a progress for the nation, this is a new direction. That's why you see almost any article that you read, you will see this is the new direction. No, this is not the first time for national unity in South Africa. Let's continue here. Let's go on. We're not going to talk about South Africa we're going to be on today. But again, with that, South Africa is going to be used as the example. But what is happening in South Africa, that's what exactly happening in fact, in Black nation, not only on the African continent alone. And that's why we sat down and critically examine and look beyond the imagination. Because we want for people to think. Not what they just come and gave you. Let's see something here. Let's go ahead here. Let's see a brief history here quick, okay? Because of time, I didn't really take a lot something. So let's see something here quick. I'll bear my premise on it as we go along. Okay, let me see it. Is this? Let me see first if it's this. How this? All right, let me see if it's this. Oh no, it's not this. So I'll take this out. Hold on, folks. Let me see here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Okay, hold on. Let me see here. Okay. All right. I got it.
Mandela lived and died in Houghton, once the most affluently white of Johannesburg's segregated suburbs. Most of his neighbours, who turned out to mourn him this morning, are still white, but it's economics now, not apartheid. They were genuinely grieving a black convicted terrorist who turned their world upside down, but left it surprisingly the same. It could have all been so different. When I went to live there in the 1980s, South Africa was trapped between oppression and revolution. The whites were tinkering with apartheid in order to preserve it. The blacks, so oddly obedient for so long, were beginning to lose patience. The young particularly were angry. The lid was about to come off. It was a terribly violent country. Brutal undercurrents flowed through the cultures of both races. It wasn't just apartheid that brought them to the surface. In Soweto, 25 domestic murders a weekend were routine. Most whites seem to have guns and few inhibitions about using them. The security forces had few restraints. As the children rioted, they were ambushed. At least 3 coloured youths were killed outright before they could take cover. The police said they were using birdshot designed to wound, not kill. But at short range, the ammunition was still deadly. Nearby buildings were peppered with gunshots. More than 20 were wounded, 3 of them seriously. Many others were taken secretly to be treated in private for fear of arrest. Our cameras recorded it in all its brutal intensity and sent the pictures around the world. They hated us.
You people, let's get out now very quickly, okay? Because you people are the fucking cause of this now. Yeah, all right. So get out. Okay.
The battlegrounds of apartheid were the townships, where blacks were lucky to be allowed to live, though still as foreigners in their own land. 12 miles up the road, and a world away, was where I lived.
Now, sorry, folks, I have to come in, right? There are 2 things I want to point out here first. People fighting for their freedom, for their right. The security officers went to him or to her because we did not see the individual he was speaking to. But he said, you guys are the cause of this. Get out and get out of here. While you are fighting for your freedom. That's one aspect. The next thing here is, you see the church? After they have gone and killed, oppressed, do all kind of horrible things, then they go back to church. There's a reason why they added this video. Then they go back to the same church and pray. I don't know what kind of God black people pray to and what kind of God white people pray to. So do you think these people will pray to the same God and you black, ignorantly, you come and pray to the same God? Who's going to be answered and who's going to be rejected? Who's going to be favored and who is not going to be favored? After they have gone and do all those horrible acts, they come back to church. And then they say, thank you, Heavenly Father, for giving us the strength to take down those nigger from the street. Those nigger from the street. Thank you for giving us the ammunition. Thank you for giving us the power, Heavenly Father. We adore you. They want to take away our freedom. We are going to look beyond this. We're going to explain good what led to the result of the 2024 election of South Africa. I'm not going to blame the white in South Africa or the white outside of South Africa. I am not going to blame them. I'm not blaming them. Look, we keep saying these things on this channel, right? And even on other platforms, other revolutionary platforms. White people will continue to do what they can do for their survival. If we don't realize that or recognize that, we will continue to be duped. White people, European, The reason why they colonize, okay, forget about colonization. The reason why white people enslave you was not for humanity, was not for friendship, was not for global mutual. It was not for that. It was about their survival. That's why they enslaved black people. That's why they enslaved. It was about their survival. That's why they did all those horrible things to you. And it did not end. After they noticed that slavery have reached to the peak and slavery have given to them what they wanted, what did they do? What did they do? Did they give freedom to African? Did they say, oh, you know what? Let's come together. Let us unite. Do they have national unity in America? Do they have national unity in England? Do they have national unity in Australia? Do they have national unity in Germany? Do they have national unity in France? Do they? Do they have national unity? Do they? Do they? So it was not for humanity they enslaved Africans. When they got what they wanted from enslavement, they said, okay, then we have to go back to their homeland. Was it for unity? We have to go back to their homeland where we got them from. And they went there. They did all kind of horrible thing again. Was it for humanity? It was for their survival. They have no thoughts that they did not take you as a human being. It was for their survival. We are looking beyond the 2024 election, the result of the election. What led to that? This is not about blaming European or blaming white people. Today, at least today's topic, it's not about blaming them. I'm not going to sit here and blame them. The question we should be asking, why are these things happening on the African continent? Do you think these things could have happened to white people in America, in Europe, so to speak, in Australia, so to speak, at this time? You think we'll be talking about national unity? You think we'll be talking about national unity? Do you think if it would happen to them, you would have a land called, or how they call it, arena in South Africa, who still have a apartheid symbol? Do you think so? Do you think so? Why they do not have a Jewish or Adolf Hitler symbol in Germany, killing and torturing and humiliating the Jewish in Germany, to say this is our how they call it, our history, we have to keep it. Where they have place in Germany, they say no Jewish allowed. Do you see it there? It is about their survival. It's not about you. Because if it was about national unity, you will not have any area that still have a apartheid symbol. And then they have their own governmental system. They have their own currency in South Africa. And then you say national symbol. Are you mad? Are you stupid? You know, Chris? You have a place in South Africa that have their own government, that have their own banking system, that have their own market, that have their own border. And they said, no black allowed. Only white. And you call that national. Let's continue here, man. Look, the disaster that is about to happen in South Africa. The disaster. I don't blame them. Who are we going to blame? I will tell you who we're going to blame. I will tell you. And that's how all African leaders are. Oh, I'm not going to say none, maybe, with the exception of, for now, Abraham Traore, Burkina Faso, Niger, or those nations in our region, with the exception of those nations, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Chad. But for now, I'm not even adding Senegal. For now, I am not adding Senegal. The last time, if you go to our previous post, WCC, we don't play. We look at beyond things. We warn you people, and especially the Senegalese president. We told him, do not meet with Nana Akufo-Addo. Do not meet with William Ruto. Your mind, they will change your mind. And it happened. We'll be talking about that, but we still looking. So Senegal is not even in the picture. We said it. Do not meet Nana Akufo-Addo, because the moment you meet him, is done. The moment you meet William Ruto, is done. And Senegal is in our middle right now. He met those people and he's done. They are done. So today is looking beyond the imagination. It's looking beyond what people are giving us and see where the problems come from, where the problem lies. And that is why Black liberation, that is why Black issue can be solved. Because they look at the surface. They believe in too much forgiveness. They believe in too much working together. When no nation in the world want to work with Black people, no nation, name me one nation in the world I want to work with Black people. Name me one. Name me one nation in the world that want to work with Black nation. Name me one nation that is not a Black nation. Name me one nation that is outside of Black nation that want to work with Black nation according to humanity. Name me one.
Our white suburbs were dedicated to the pursuit of graciousness. When our blacks were hungry, we didn't tell them to eat cake, we ate it ourselves. This banquet in aid of the starving was held with the country in a state of emergency, the townships in flames, and drought searing the black homelands. But there were more important things to talk about.
And what it became clear was that
The other world. Millions of blacks shoveled into resettlement camps like onverwacht.
Water here is scarce and polluted. It's cold in winter. The unbearable heat of summer helped push the death rate of children here to 100 a month. The government here claims with some justification that things are changing in South Africa, that those blacks lucky enough to be allowed to live in cities are becoming better off, that coloureds and Indians will soon have a minor role in government. But all the time, this major exercise in social engineering is going on, uprooting and transplanting millions of blacks, whether they like it or not. It's a more complicated issue than most people realise, but the central truth is that this is apartheid, and this isn't changing.
The white conscript.
And the truth is, this is apartheid, and this is not changing. This is not going to change. You know why I took this video? I took this video because it was not a Black person or an African that narrating it. It's a white. That's why I took it, so you can see it. This is exactly apartheid. And it's not changing. It's not going to change. You think national unity is going to bring anything good? This is not the first time for national unity. This is not the first time for national unity. This is apartheid, and this isn't going anywhere. Let's continue here.
Army crushed the township uprising while we reporters were gagged by a state of emergency. There'd been no real organisation. The ANC leaders, in exile and in jail, were on the sidelines. But by now the world had turned its back on white South Africa. Credit of both kinds was running out. The unthinkable had become the inevitable. Good evening. Nelson Mandela walked away from 27 years in prison today. After 10,000 days in jail, the world's most famous prisoner walks out through the prison gates. He tells a mass rally in Cape Town, sanctions must remain, the armed struggle must go on.
The factors which necessitated the armed struggle still exist today.
He emerged into the world a man almost sanctified by...
Now, Nelson Mandela said something in our video. The struggle or the armed struggle still exists today. National unity is not the first time. 1994, they had a national unity. Why? The nation didn't go the way they are saying, oh, national unity. They make it seem that this is the first time for national unity to come. Apartheid. You know, I don't want to write here. We like I said, apartheid is coming back. South Africa. Hold on. Let me play the video. We're going to dive in. Today is just about South Africa, right? But this story is actually entirely Africa. That's how dumb and stupid our African leaders are today.
By suffering. A politician who'd never had to bother with the messy compromises of politics, the only real possibility for peaceful change. All those hopes and fears invested in a man almost everybody was seeing for the first time. He was fated for his dignity and grace, for what he was, not what he did. It didn't matter, he was initially at least a wooden...
Now, let me explain this. Maybe you missed that point. I'm going to summarize it, right? Or paraphrase it. He was praised. Now, it's not those little black folks he saw down there. But what the narrator is trying to say here is, Nelson Mandela was praised. He was talked about, not because of what he did, but because who he was. And let me explain that. Nelson Mandela is being loved by white America, by European, by the West, because of the way he stood. Torture. He survived torture. He was poisoned. So the reality here is they themselves, they gained their strength from this man. That if Nelson Mandela can survive, we can endure pain too. We know black people, African people are going to resist. It's going to be tough. It will come a time. But we can rely on how Nelson Mandela survived when these black people are coming against us. They celebrate this man because the kind of torture they gave him and he survived. They poison him, but he's still surviving. 27 years in jail. Look, 27 years in jail, right? Being tortured, being in a conducive environment, not good environment, no bed, on a bare float. I mean, you lay down on a bare floor just for a day. You go and lie down on a bare floor just for a day. We are talking about 27 years on a bare floor, not even cemented, bare floor, ground with hilly, not even good. You see ants coming in, what it rain, water, I mean, everything nasty going in there. But he survived it for 27 years. These people celebrate Nelson Mandela because of how they torture him. They love it. For each time they celebrate it, they feel happy for how they torture a black man, how they humiliate a black man. And you sit down there, you celebrate Nelson Mandela along with these people. And then they become keynote speaker on Nelson Mandela Day. Who know Nelson Mandela's story than black men? Who know Nelson Mandela pain? Who know the pain he endured than a black man? How can a white man come and sit down and talk about the pain Nelson Mandela endured, the pain he went through, the torture he went through, and then you see black men sitting down on a white man listening? Does it make sense? A black man should be the one to educate the Europeans the torture of Nelson Mandela, because what he went through, black people went through the same thing. Black people should be the one educating European about Africans issue, what they went through. Now white people come in, lecture. Does it make sense? It's like white America educating black America about slavery, when black America are still living the after effects of slavery. And then you come and you lecturing them about how black people live in slum community, when black people are still living in slum. You come and lecture about how black people educational system in their community was poor, when currently today is still the same. You come and lecture black people about how the healthcare sector in black community was, when black people in this current time is the same. Does it make sense for them to come and lecture? I thought black people should be the one lecturing white America. So how can the prince, the so-called prince, live from England? These are people who never experienced torture, who never experienced life, how life is like in a slum in black community in Africa. How can he leave his Buckingham Palace to go to South Africa to educate black people about South Africa independence, about Nelson Mandela, the torture they gave him for 27 years in prison? How can he go and look? Like I said, what is happening in South Africa, I don't blame white. I blame the South African leader. I blame African leader for what is happening in Africa in this current time. Today topic at least. I'm not going to be bashing white people. It is the African I'm going to bash today. It is the African I am going to bash. African at the cause of what is currently happening to us. We know white people will not just give up. We know they are not just going to say, okay, you're taking, okay, this. It's not going to happen. We know that. We know that. If not, like I said, there won't be a place today in South Africa where they say no black. There is a place today in South Africa that say white only. No black allowed. And white America support that particular place. Europe, Australia, they support that particular place. So you want me to blame white people for some of the things that are happening on the African continent? I'm not going to. There are some things we're not going to blame white. Because you see a clear, plain white that is black people who are the cause now, today. Let's continue here.
Speaker with little taste for administration. Nobody else could carry that burden of expectation.
Won't they expect things to change very quickly, and isn't that a burden to you?
Naturally, there is that expectation, and it's an expectation that is justified.
In townships where the shit flowed in the streets and the wagon offered one of the...
Listen to this. They asked Nelson Mandela, do you have an expectation that things going to change quickly? He said, what? Absolutely, there is no expectation. There is no expectation. He said it, right? There is no expectation. Now, sit down and think quickly. Why would Nelson Mandela say there is no expectation? Think about that. Why would he say there is no expectation? All right. You know why he said that? He said that because he knows there will now be a time in South Africa where white, black will come together as one. Now you may ask me, say, Frank, you mad, you stupid. Black people in South Africa now fighting for nationalization of land and mine. But white people, DA, are saying there will be no nationalization of land and mines because white people own it. There will be no nationalization. So what? So do you see Nelson Mandela? Look, you have to understand your history. You don't just see some of these videos and then say no. Nelson Mandela said for a reason. And in this current time, what do we see from the DA? The DA say, we're going to read it. The DA said, as long EFF had the notion of nationalization of mine and land, they will never work with South Africa. And he said, any party in South Africa that have the mindset of nationalization of land and mine, they will never work with that organization or that political party. That's why Nelson Mandela said there will be no change. Now, what Nelson Mandela was trying to also say is that, now, if there will be no change, then what black people need to do? What African people need to do? Is to recognize these things and come together and fight. No national unity. And I just said it here. The disaster that are going to happen in South Africa, right? Keep this video. Keep this video. Now, we listen to the tone and the voice of our forefather. We don't just come here and speak based on opinion. That's why our forefather said, just call the name of your forefather and they will come. They will direct you. They will be with you. But we fail to realize it. We go and always call the name of the forefather of our enemies, of the oppressor. That's why things are not being done on Africa or on the African continent in African nations. Because we fail to hearken to the voice of our own forefather. If you think there will be national unity by working with white people, you damn lie. Black Africans, whatsoever, you have to wake up and unite and fight. And you always notice for each time black people want to unite to fight, that's the time white people will come in and say, we are all one. Why can't we just come together? That's why God say we should live in harmony. We should love one another. But when you have the power, we don't live in one. When you have the power, you preach segregation. When you have the power, you preach separation. But the moment black people began to wake up, to unite, to fight, that's the time you come. You know, Nelson Mandela fought. He said we should be one people. We should come together. That's what Nelson Mandela fought for. That's what the Rainbow Nation is for. So Africa have come a long way. We need to come together now. It is time to build this country and move on. We are a Rainbow Nation. It's very funny, but serious. Let's continue.
A few jobs around, they expected miracles.
The ANC has promised that there will be housing, there will be schooling, there will be education, there will be that and that and that.
Will you give them 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years?
After the 27th, I would give them 2 months.
Life mostly did get better, but the economy has stalled. Half the young people are unemployed. The ANC has grown fat on 20 years of unchallenged rule and worries about the young radical left.
All right. Right? At least you are seeing a little bit background. All right? And Nelson Mandela told us no solution. Nothing. That means he was trying to say if South African people, if black people, you don't fight, you don't unite, you don't get along with people who speak in your interest, and you think you're going to work on the other side, it's not going to happen. No change. He made it. You heard it. No change. There is no change. So then, let's see beyond. We already laid some premise, right? Now you see where we're going, right? Let's go to this article. Now, let's see this article here. The article says South Africa, ANC, and opposition announced a united government in a big power shift. All right. Now we get into the part that I want to make. Now, folks, look at this, right? I told you we want to look beyond and see where the problem is coming from. South Africa, ANC, and oppositions announced a united government in a big power shift. Now, after 30 years of failed leadership, 30 years failing to live up to the standard, to uplift the people from poverty, to give actually true independence to South Africans. What happened? Now, in my belief, if I haven't seen this article or if I did not follow the South African just past election, and you just read the title of this article to me, South Africa ANC, which of course I know is a ruling party, and an opposition announced a united government in a big power shift. What we come to mind is, oh, the opposition. Okay, that's the EFF. Because who knew about the DA? What have the DA done in South Africa to really prove that they are opposition? Mostly it's the EFF we've been seeing. So what we come to mind is the EFF. Because through all, people know that EFF is the biggest, before the election, people know that the biggest opposition party is the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighter, before the election. So what we come to mind is, okay, ANC want to collaborate with the opposition EFF political party to be strong or stronger to move the agenda of Black South Africa. But no, folks, that did not happen. Now, before I get into the article, the question then becomes, who is the opposition political party? Now, the question then becomes, without even reading it, who is the opposition political party? Now, if the opposition political party is a white party, which of course is the DA, the so-called Democratic Alliances, right? If it is this racist organization, then how did we get to this point for a racist organization that don't care about Black people, Black South Africa, to be second in a national election in a Black nation? Now, the question then could be, why did the South Africa ANC struggle? Is it because they failed after 30 years from independence to deliver Black South Africa? Yes. You see, that is why most African governments or leaders suffer. That is why they don't succeed. And that is why there are people turn against them. Under no circumstances, ANC spent 30 years in power and then struggle to win government. Because if they were doing the right thing, whereas the people know how racist the DA is, I don't think they'll be voting for the DA. That could be one aspect. The second aspect is, was a South African election rigged? Because the biggest political party or opposition party is the EFF in South Africa. Why would the EFF come fourth? And then the ANC, one of the least, the DA, one of the least, can second. Was a rigged? Now, look at this. Was it because the minority that actually controls South Africa, the minority that actually controls South Africa resources, mind and land, they came out of a strategy to rig the election to say the only way why South Africa will survive, we have to rig this election and make DA to come the second, and then the DA and the ANC will form an alliance. And then the DA will have more power in government. Because if we allow the ANC, which of course is the most powerful political opposition in the country, if we allow them to win this election to come close or second to the ANC, that means the ANC, they are two black political parties. And knowingly, we have seen Julian Malema over the year that have said he will become president. And when he becomes president, land and mine going to be nationalized. So if even EFF did not win or do not win the election and come second, and they're going to share power with the ANC, that means the ANC will be forced to agree to the demand of the EFF. The ANC will be forced to agree to the demand of the EFF to have land and mine nationalized. And that means the interest of the white minority, the land going to be taken from the white minority, the mine going to be taken from the how they call it, a white minority, the mineral resources going to be taken from them. So the election, I want to believe it was rigged. You see the analysis I gave. That the second analysis I gave, this is how it went. I gave you two analyses. The first analysis here is, they saw that if the EFF come to second to the ANC, these are two political parties for black, they will unite. And the ANC will not have to take the demand of the EFF, which of course, the ANC, throughout the whole time they have been serving, they did not agree. They never agree with Julian Malema. They never agree. Hold on, folks. Hello? Hello? Yeah, peace, and come on. All right, sorry, folks. That was Nkima calling me. All right, so like I was saying, right? So that's what went on. That's the analysis that went on. So The white sat down. Because also what we say here is, if the EFF win or come second, it's going to affect the British monopoly or the British market. Because we know what Europeans are getting from South Africa. It's going to affect them. So what it did here is, if we allow the EFF come second, it's not going to be in our interest, because ANC have to work with the demand of the EFF. And banks and land going to be nationalized. Our mind gonna be nationalized. And power going to be taken away from us to black people. So we cannot allow the EFF to even come second place. So then, how can it save us? The only way it can save us, because we cannot allow the Zuma party or the MK party to even take second place as well. It's still black party. And then there was another party, I think the Popularist Party or so. It's still a black party. We cannot allow it to come. So the only party is the DA. So if we allow the DA to come second, then power sharing going to be between the DA and the ANC. That means the land and mine still going to be with white people. That means the minority still control South Africa, because ANC have to do accordingly what the DA want, and then EFF will fall by the wayside. MK fall by the wayside, because EFF was never going to work with it. How they call it, DA. The MK Zuma was not going to work with the DA. So did you see what is going on? Did you see what they did? That they rigged the election. Rabo said, who control the economy? I mean, from the analysis I just gave, you know who control the economy. The DA said they will not work with the ANC as long, this question is in, this answer is to Rabo question. All right. Now, the DA said they are not going to work with any political party or with the EFF, who say when they win the election, they will nationalize the mine, that means the resources and the land. Now, the question then becomes, who control the land and the mines? The mine, white people. So the DA is fighting for the interest of the white minority who control the land and mine. So yes, white people control the economy. If you control the economy, that means you control the land, you control the mineral. Controlling the economy, it don't really mean the money, the paper money. Even though you regulate the money, right? But it means who control the economy is the land and the resources. So yes, the white minority control the economy. And that is why DA said they will not work with any political party that says when they win, they will nationalize the resources. They will nationalize the mine and the land. Because if you nationalize it, what's going to happen? They allow me the mine and the land go to black South Africa, because you're talking about a black nation. Now, let me give you a history. You see, some of these things that are happening, let me give you a history. You see what happened in America here. America does not practice democracy. Because while there will be election, and then you say, no, we are not going by the majority. We have to go by the electoral college. You know why they did that? You know why they did that? By not going by election results, they have to go by the electoral college. Because they know if they go by the election, the actual results, right, and not the electoral college, what's going to happen? The interest of the marginalized people going to be fulfilled. So that means whosoever that win by the oppressed have to go to power. And those that control the mind and the resources, right, they do not want for the will of the oppressed to go to power. So that's why they say after the oppressed have voted, right? Then we now have to make decisions. That's the same way going in South Africa. Because the white are just minority, about 9% white people. Why would they get power like that? 9% white. Why would they get power like that? Why would they come second in a national election in a black land? Why? So in South Africa, what happened here is the national election cannot take you to power. The national election cannot take you to power. What take you to power is this. The first and the second, right? Now go to parliament and parliament vote. National election cannot take you to power in South Africa. The parliament actually vote. So what then happened here is the first and the second are elected into government, or how they call it, into the presidency. The first and the second are elected to the presidency. So the national unity there is not national unity, because what happened at the ANC for the black, the white, the DA for the white, is that a national unity? So that's why they said no. So the election was rigged. That's why they said no, we cannot allow the EFF to take second place. Then allow me, white people, we will be done. So white people fought for their interests. So did you see what I said? From the beginning of the show, white people always look at what's going to affect them and they try to work on it. Black people, we don't look at what's going to affect us. So that's how elections are being done in South Africa. It is not by the majority vote that take you to power. It is who comes first and who comes second, and then go to parliament, parliament pull you into power. It is the parliament that vote for you to get into power in South Africa. So do you see how the white people have always played to their advantage? The 9%, the minority, make the decision in South Africa. The 9%. Do you see how politics are being played in South Africa? So what they're talking about national unity is not national unity. You can't be talking about national unity and one of the political party is saying we are now going to nationalize the mine and the banks, the land. Because if they do that, majority of the land will go to black people. The mine, the resources go to black people. Then how can you say that? And then you say you want to, we are fighting for national unity, national government. So how did we get to that place in the first place? We got there because, number one, the election was rigged. Now, let's look at it to say the election was not rigged. Let's look at beyond that, because we also want to balance equation here. We want to go to the article, but we want to balance equation here right now, right? So now we talk about the election was rigged, right? So that the DA can take the second place, so that the power sharing can be between white and black, the DA and the ANC, which of course the ANC is not going to be in black people interest, but the DA, the Democratic Alliance, is going to be in white people interest, and the ANC is going to fight in with white people interest, because the DA that control the economy, white people that control the economy, that represent, that the DA is representing them, right? South Africa, now the ANC, Ramaphosa have to listen to what the DA say, because the DA is representing the white minority that control the land, that control the economy. Okay? The DA is representing the white minority that control the economy. So whatsoever the white minority that control the economy will tell the DA will not tell South Africa or the ANC what to do. Then the ANC have to go by what DA is saying, because the order is coming from the above to the DA, and the DA is giving order to the ANC to implement. So the ANC is actually the police officer. So what happened here is there are three branches of government right there. The white minority that control the economy is the executive. All right? The white minority that control the economy is the executive. And then the DA is the legislature. And then the ANC is the judiciary. The law, the interpreter, the one who interpreted the law, right? The one who enforced the law, right? So the ANC, which is actually supposed to be the executive, no, it's the judiciary branch of government that implement or that carry on the implementation of the legislature, which is the DA. And the DA carry on the implementation of the executive, which is the white minority that control the economy. Where is the national unity? I explained that clear. If you don't get it yet, then you're not going to get it. All right? So now, the question then become again now, right? Let's go back. I wanted to answer that question about Robert. So the question then become, if the election was not rigged, because we want to do justice here, right? We want to do justice here and put the facts where it belongs. The question then that become is, if the election was not rigged, right? Why the EFF that we know that have been speaking for black people, why will it come forth? We need to look at these things. If the election was not rigged, why the EFF that always speak for black interests, and we have been seeing it throughout the years, why will it come forth? Now, if the election was not rigged, why the ANC that fought for independence, that fought the apartheid, a demonic regime, a demonic Western organization, the Canadian, the American government, Europe, Australia, they all supported Asia to torture and dehumanize and kill Africans, right? The apartheid government fought and it died, and the youth died. The apartheid government. Now, if the election was not rigged, why will people turn against an institution that fought friendly and tirelessly for independence? And this institution ruled for 30 years. All of a sudden, why will it lose election? Why did it lose election? We ask a critical question. We are not here for opinion. We're here to balance the equation. We're here to balance the equation. Why will it lose? Now, let's look at this scenario again. Does that mean that the DA came second because South Africans felt that if the ANC come into power, the ANC will not do nothing? The ANC will do the same thing as the ANC because the ANC was one in the position of the EFF. Let's be critical and look here, folks. This is WCC. We want to make people to understand. Could it be that the people regarded or disregarded the ANC and went for the DA, the racist organization, knowingly they know that the DA is racist, they know that the DA is not in their interest, right? So could it be that the people decided that the ANC was once in the position of the EFF, and the ANC came and did nothing for us. Up to today, South African, black South African, we still live in poverty, in slow community. We don't have job. We are still being spit upon. We still have place in South Africa that say white only and no black allowed. In black South Africa, in black nation. And we have the ANC that have led this country for 30 years, but cannot speak on those things, cannot put those things to rest. We still have apartheid in this country. Could it be that the people say we can't vote for EFF because EFF will betray us? Could it be that the people got tired with the ANC because they said ANC can't do nothing? Could it be that the people say, you know what, let's just vote for the DA, the racist organization, and then let it come back and take power, and then let it treat us the same way they treated us before Nelson Mandela went to prison for 27 years. Let it treat us like doing a apartheid term. Could it be that the people just gave us and said, let's go to the DA and vote for the DA, period, and finish, that's it? Could it be? Could it be that the people felt betrayed because those African leaders, they had the habit of not protecting the interests of their people? Could it be that those African leaders, I mean Africa, this is not just of Africa, those African, and this is not just the African continent, I mean all black nation. Could it be that the people are fed up? Because these leaders, before they take offices, before they come to power, they will come in a form of a struggle with the people. They will come in a form that they recognize, they understand the struggle and the issue of the people. But by the time they get in power, they disregard the people. Could it be that the people say, you know what? We want to vote for the enemies. Let the enemy come, and the enemy will take us back to captivity, back to slavery. Let us go there. Could it be that it was the other case around, and that's how the DA came second? Let's go to the article. So we're making it clear for you to see. All right. Now let's read here. Cape Town, South Africa. The African National Congress Party has signed a deal to form a coalition government with the mean opposition. Now, listen to this. When I read this, it baffled me. With the mean opposition. Since when did the DA become a mean opposition in South Africa? Folks, if you're talking about a mean opposition in South Africa, wouldn't it come to your mind that the EFF is the mean opposition? The election was rigged. Even though we know that the ANC, in actuality, did not live up to the standard of the people, because after 30 years, the life of South Africa must change. After 30 years, the land and the mine should be taken from the white minority. The economy, after 30 years, should have been taken from the white minority and given to the majority. So when did the DA become mean opposition? But let's continue here. The African National Congress Party has signed a deal to form a coalition government with the main opposition. Party official announced Friday after a week of fierce negotiation. Double the government of national unity. This marked a similar shift in South African politics, and as this did not mark the similar shift in South African politics. This did not mark a significant shift in South African politics. This is not the first time they talk about national unity. But because people do not know their history, they would think this is the first time. No, there was a national unity in 1994. Where did it go? But let's continue. In South African politics, which has been dominated by the ANC since the end of apartheid 30 years. Now, let's go back this. Let me explain this. After 30 years, you see, that's why African governments struggle. When they get to power, they do not understand the dynamic to which or in which they are in power. They go for the money. And once you go for the money, you're going to shift from being a leader for the people, for the masses, to be a leader for the minority. And that's how the ANC have been in government for 30 years, not for the masses, but for the minority, because they went for the money. Let's continue here. It allowed the party of the late legendary Nelson Mandela, with its rival, the white Pro Business Democratic Alliance DA party. The correlation also includes the smaller Inkatha Freedom Party. With it being good Genun or Ba Genun, that means how they call it, government of or unity or something. That's what they're trying to say here. They just abbreviate it, right? So they are saying, will this government of national unity be by one, be a good one, or be a by one? Now, it's going to be a by one because the same government that you're trying to find a government unity with is saying she's not there for black South African, but she's there for white South African. She's saying she's not there to support, how they call it, a nationalization of mine and land. She's there to make sure the white minority keep the mine and land. So how can it be a national unity? You will be in a wrong frame of mind to think that this is a national unity when this guy is clearly saying she's not off, or they are not out for national unity. They are off for division. How can you be off for division and then you say this is a national unity? Look, South Africa is going to plunge, is going back. Now, let me make this clear. You South Africans have been running out Nigerian. You South Africans have been running out Zimbabwe and saying these people are coming to take your land. I mean, these people are coming to take your job, to take your days. This is a time now. The Zimbabwe is going to be running you people out. The Nigerian going to run you people out. All African nations going to run you people out for being ungrateful. When these countries fought for independence, they fought alongside for South Africa to gain independence. And these people came to South Africa to manage living. And you say they are taking away your job, they are taking your economy. How can they take your economy when they do not control your land? They do not control your mind. They do not control your economy, nothing in the country. And you say they are taking your job. Are they the one giving you job? Or the white minority have the job, have the economy? The calamity that is coming to before you. Karma is real. You rent these people out. You kill these people. To the extent some of these people, their government have to come and outlive them. You know what is about to happen to you? Oh, if only you can see what is coming, because I see what is coming. Let's continue this. Will it be a good national unity or a bad national unity? Has been a joke. So this has been a joke. Making the round in South Africa the past 2 years or the past 2 weeks. Playing. So people already know. People are already saying this is a joke. The national unity is a joke because this is not the first time. And people are saying it is a joke that have been suffering around South Africa for the past 2 weeks, or national unity or togetherness or the Rainbow Nation, right? Playing on the initiative of government of national unity, as political party engage in relatively backroom talk to form a government of national unity, GNU, or correlation of some sort, a necessity after the ANC lost its origin majority right in the May election. Its right in majority in the May election. Now, the ANC got 40% of the national vote, a make-up call from citizens expressing their frustration with a struggling economy, high unemployment, service delivery, failure, and corruption. And you see, let me make this clear. In an economy that is being controlled by the oppressor, right? The oppressor going to strangle you so that you will not be able to make any change, because they control the economy, they control the resources, right? The mine and the capital, right? They're going to control you in a way that you will not be able to provide. You will be able to improvise for your people, and your people will go against you. And that is what has been happening to most African nations. Because in the first place, when they get to power, they focus on the money. Instead of them focusing and to work along with their people and put all this money business and this livelihood and living a lively life aside and work with their people to build their country like Abraham Tuwara is doing, African leaders don't want to do that. By the time they get into power, they run after the money. And once you run after the money, you betray your people. You betray the suffering of your people. Let's continue here. The announcement came during the first sitting of Parliament in Cape Town, where lawmakers were sworn in. Incumbent President Cyril Ramaphosa, leader of the ANC, was easily re-elected by Parliament. So you see how they get re-election. So this was done, this kind of how they call it, election was done in South Africa by the white minority, because they knew that if they don't do it this way, right, where the leader will be appointed in. Now, let me make this first. In the first place, during this time, white people control Parliament. Okay, so you want to understand the background first. White people during this time, right, when South Africa gave an independence in the 90s, right, white people were the ones that were ruling in the first place. So they controlled Parliament at that time. So they said, we are just 9% in this country. If we want to go by election results, right, where people vote and that whosoever win become the president or become the leader, white people will not get any chance in this country because we are only 9%. So what we can do here is they can go and do their election, but the final result have to come from Parliament because we control the Parliament. That's how these things came about. That's how these things came about. That's why during the past years, right, you have witnessed the EFF have fought tirelessly to have more members in Parliament. The main opposition party, the EFF, fought to have more members in Parliament. How many people the DA have in Parliament for DA to come second? This election was rigged. That's why you have to study these things critically to analyze it and see. Let's continue here. All right, let's continue. Where President Cyril Ramaphosa, leader of the ANC, was easily re-elected by Parliament to a second term over candidate Julia Malema of the far-left Economic Freedom Fighter. South Africa market have reacted favorably to the news as investor sees the centralist DA. You see, as investor, look, let me say this. They don't want to make it clear. The people they call investors, right? Those are the people that control the economy. So instead of them saying the people that control the economy, okay, to whom the DA is working for them, to whom the DA is advocating for them, that's what the DA said. She will not work with any political party that talk about nationalization of mines and banks. And you know who control the mines and banks in South Africa? So South Africa market have reacted favorably. The economy, those are controlled favorably to the news as investor sees the centrist DA as a business-friendly party generally known for clean governance. So you see, they're the ones saying the DA is clean, right? But listen to this. Let me make my point here. That's why I said the election was rigged. Maybe you did not get it. Let me read this and then I will explain it. This election was rigged. Look at this here. South Africa market have reacted favorably to the news as investor sees the centrist, C-E-N-T-R-I-S-T, the centrist DA as a business-friendly. South Africa EFF is not a friendly political party to make business with. It's not business friendly related. Only because this party said they will nationalize the mines and banks. So that make them not friendly. These people do not want independence for Africa. That's why they always support proxy war in Africa. So you see it, right? The centrist DA as a business-friendly party, generally known for clean governance. So they rig the election, okay? They say if we don't rig this election, obviously the EFF going to either come second to the ANC, or the ANC going to come second to EFF. And these people going to do so. If the EFF come first and ANC come second, obviously these people are going to nationalize the mines and banks, and then it will be done with the British. It will be done with the white people. It will be done with these aliens in South Africa. It will be done with these white migrants who say they own the land. It will be done with apartheid, or how they call it, or state or Senate in South Africa. They will be done with them. So we cannot allow the EFF to come first and the ANC come second. Either way, we will be done. If ANC comes second and ANC come first, EFF come second, we done. EFF come first, ANC come second, we done. So then, how can we survive? How can we bring back, or how can we maintain the South African economy? The only way we can maintain it is to rig this election and make DA come second. Because under no circumstances, if we have to be careful, that's what they said. Okay, in my belief, the only way we can rig this election to say we will make the DA win the election, they will understand that we rig the election. Because the DA is not possible, it's impossible for DA to come first. So their option was to rig the election and make the DA come second. That's the only way they will stand a chance, and that's the only way they will continue to exploit the people. And that's how they rigged this election, and they made the DA that they said the centuries DA's friendly business and clean governance. So their definition of a clean governor is not a definition of a clean governor when it comes to Africa. We know the South African know the DA is a racist organization, and as we are saying here, right, the DA says she's not going to work with any political party that talk about nationalization of mine and banks. So that means she's not in the interest of the masses of the people. So how can it be a clean governance? So what these people, these Europeans, these white people call good, what they call good, we cannot call it good. And what we call good, they cannot call it good. What we call good, they call it bad. And what they call good, we should also call it bad. So they read this election right here. That's the analysis. Maybe after 30 years, it's going to be in documentary, and now you're going to see it that, oh, that election was rigged. And by that time, at least, if some of you are alive, we know that, yes, Frank said it the moment the election happened. So the election was rigged. Let's continue here. Now, there have been concern in some quarter that the ANC could do a deal with Malema EFF party. The ANC invited the EFF into the united government, but the radical lefty party refused to join with Malema, labeling the Democratic Alliance as a racist party. Yes, because it will be useless. What is the reason of Malema going there to go unite when a DA who will have power over Malema? Because Malema came way fourth, the DA came second, and the ANC is making D with the DA. So what voice will the EFF have? When ANC, even though she's going to take power, but the ANC going to be taking command from the DA, because the white minority that control the economy going to be telling the DA what the ANC should do, and then the DA going to be giving all to the ANC to carry on the act. So what do you want for EFF to do? What will Malema do in this case? Malema will be seen as a stupid person because at the end of the day, Malema have to do what the DA say ANC should do. You have to do what the DA say ANC should do. What do you want for Malema to do? And Malema have stated clear before, if he didn't win the election, he's not going to work with the ANC because he said the ANC is a party that is being controlled by Oppenheimer. Go and follow Julian Malema stuff. And the Oppenheimer, the minority, white minority, are the people that control the South African economy. And Julian Malema said, if he loses the election, he's not going to work with the ANC because the ANC is a bought organization by the Oppenheimer. Let's continue here. So it was Rick, right? It was Rick. Get it or you go out and you come down, it was Rick. I already gave you analysis why they put DA in that situation. I already gave you analysis why the EFF couldn't come first or the EFF couldn't come second. Because it was going to be done for the racist white people in South Africa. It was going to be done for Oppenheimer. Because they know Julian Malema was coming for them. Let's continue. The DA had likewise said, entering any government. That's the DA. That's the DA. How would a DA, how would South Africa have a national government or national unity? Look at this government. I mean the DA. The DA has likewise said, entering any government, not even the EFF, any government that include the EFF, which one nationalization of the mine and banks was a deal breaker. This is the DA, South Africa. So all those are jumping around, oh, national government or national unity is lie. It's lie. More suffering. More suffering. Because you know what? At first, the ANC was actually independent because unless this, right? The ANC actually had no restraint, so to speak, for the past 30 years. As I'll put it this way. In some perspective, the ANC had no restraint actually. But in this particular government, the ANC now have restraint. The ANC now have restraint because she's actually going to be working by the command of the DA. But as first, ANC didn't have to listen to the DA. The ANC have to do what she wants. But now the ANC have to listen to the DA. So this is the DA speaking here. So this is why they rigged the election. Because they knew if EFF come first, it's done with the white minority. If EFF comes second, it's still done with the white minority because the ANC have to listen to the EFF. Just how the ANC going to listen to the DA. So how is it going to be a national unity? How is it going to be an inclusion, right? Not exclusion, when the DA is saying she is not going to work with any government. So that means even the ANC does not have the power, even though the ANC is the head of the government, and so to speak, in court, right? ANC is seen as the head of the government, but the DA is not going to work with the ANC, even if the ANC put on the table to have, how they call it, to nationalize mine and banks, is not going to happen. So where is the national unity? Another quasi story of national unity. Look, the calamity that is about to fall on South African. Hey man, I wish they can see what is coming, like what I'm saying. Let's continue here. The DA has likewise said, entering any government. So do you see what Nelson Mandela said? There is no change. When they asked him, do you see a swift change? And he said, no, absolutely no. So do you see what is happening here? The DA is fighting for white South Africans to continue to marginalize the masses of black South Africans. against nationalization of land and mine to share with blacks of Africans. Your enemies will always be your enemy. The Most High said it. And he identified who our enemies are. And the most thing about it, our enemies know who their enemies are. But we don't know. Likewise, DA said entering any government that include the EFF, which won nationalization of the mines and banks, was a deal breaker. The DA won almost 22% of the vote. But in a country where less than 10% of the population is white, how can they win election? How can they come second? The election was rigged. The DA won almost 22% of the vote. But conjunction, but contrast, right? But in a country where less than 10% of the population is white, the party led by white politician John Steenhuisen has struggled. He has struggled with its image. How can a party come second? John Steenhuisen has struggled with its image. Some member of the ANC wanted to oppose forming a government with the DA. The DA won almost 22% of the vote. But in a country where less than 10% of the population is white, the party led by white politician John Steenhuisen has struggled with its image. How can it take second place? The election was rigged. The election was rigged. The ignorance of African want, they can take it. They don't want, they cannot. I mean, it's their business, but it is the truth. Yesterday, you are running out Nigerian. Yesterday, you are running out Zimbabwe only because they have a colonial name, Zimbabwe. Yesterday, you are running out Nigerian only because they have a colonial name, Nigerian. I don't know what you're going to do. Because the last time when we check during apartheid time, the same people you are running out because they have the name Zimbabwe, they fought for you. The same people yesterday when you had apartheid, when the United States was supporting apartheid government, when Canada was supporting apartheid government to torture you, when Europe, the British was supporting France, all of them, Israel, when they were shooting down and killing you, the people you call Nigerian with a colonial name, colonial identity, you ran them out, you killed them. What is going to happen to you now? Are you going to go to Zimbabwe? Are you going to go to South Africa? I mean, to Nigeria? Do you think the Nigeria will come back and fight for you again? Because the second coming of apartheid is knocking at your door. What you call government of inclusion or unity is not. Because apartheid have been reinvented more vividly, even though it did not go, apartheid did not finish, it did not go away. But it had just been reinvented vividly. What are you going to do with the people yesterday you called Zimbabwe? You beat them, you kill them, you torture them. Those people are still alive today, by the way, they are grieving their loved one. They are traumatized. Those Nigerians, they are grieving their loved one, they are traumatized. What are you going to say to them? Are you going to call them to come to your aid? Because it's coming, if only you see what I see. Let's continue here. Steenhuisen addressed the press Friday, calling the deal a new chapter in our history, and noting that while the road ahead may be difficult. He's already telling you, man, you're not going to find peace. The same people that said national unity, they are telling you the road ahead is difficult. When they control the economy, look, black people should be the one, black South Africans should be the one to say the road ahead is difficult because they are the one, at least supposed to be talking to white. You control the land, give us on the land, you control the mind. Give us on the mind, you control the bank. Give us some power, you have all this power. But the people that have the power are the people that are saying it's going to be difficult. That means they are not going to share with black South Africans. They're already telling you it's going to be difficult. They're not going to share with you. It's going to be difficult. Like they said, they are not going to work with any government that want to talk about banks, nationalization of mine and banks. Then how can you talk about unity? How can you talk about how to call it, government or national unity when you say you are not going to work with any government that want to nationalize mines and banks? To give equality to blacks of Africans, then how can you talk about national unity when you say you will not give equality to blacks of Africans? When you say it's going to be difficult because blacks of Africans going to be in captivity, they're going to cry, they're going to march again. Well, soldier will be shooting them. It's going to be difficult. They are already speaking. The people have also told us that a time of a new politics of collaboration and problem solving has arrived. Yeah. Now, the Red Berets, so this is how they describe EFF. The Red Berets, as the EFF, I sometimes call due to their trademark grab, arrived late for the opening of parliament, but did not disrupt proceeding as they were known to do. They are currently the fourth largest party in parliament. The biggest opposition political party in the country. And now the fourth. Let's continue here. The Umkoto Wizui party, if I've mispronounced it, sorry, or the MK, was notably absent from proceeding, leaving a rate of empty seat. The newly formed Popularist Party, led by former President Jacob Zuma, once an ANC stalwart, said they were boycotting proceeding, allying without providing proof that the May 9, 2029 election was rigged. So, the Zuma party, the MK, did not attend because they said the May 29 election were rigged. Anyway, I already explained that clear, and you see what we mean by that. So you know it was rigged. I explained that clear, right? And laid it Dixie and told you why it went that way. If not, this was going to happen, right? Let's continue. The MK actually did surprisingly well in the pool. All right, we'll leave that. Zuma 82, I don't have interest in that. All right. South Africa has had a government of national unity once before. All right. South Africa has had a government of national unity once before. The first democratic government in 1994 under Nelson Mandela. And it was the same Nelson Mandela they asked, do you think change will strictly come? And Nelson Mandela said, nope. He said, nope, it will never come. So, South Africa has had a government of national unity once before. The first democratic government in 1994 was part of a power-sharing agreement between Mandela and the country's last apartheid president, F.W. de Klerk, portraying itself as a symbol of reconciliation. Let me read that again. South Africa has had a government of national unity once before. The first democratic government in 1994 was part of a power-sharing agreement between Mandela and the country's last apartheid president, F.W. de Klerk, portraying itself as a symbol of reconciliation. I will take that out. All right. So that's it. That's of South Africa, and that's go to all the African nations, whether on the African continent or out of the African continent. This is how African elections are being manipulated, are being decided upon even before it takes place. This is how African elections are being manipulated or decided even before it takes place. The colonizer already know the result of the election. We don't know. They already know the result of the election. They already know how it's going to be and how it will be. So did you see that? That's how the election played out. That's how the election was rigged in order to continue the white hegemony in South Africa, and also to continue for the South African, how they call it, goal to keep flowing in Canada and England. Let's see this video here. Let's see another video, where this whole thing is a quasi-national unity. My fault. There is no national unity. The disaster that is coming to South Africa is going to be the disaster.
Beat of entertainment, we've got it all covered, so please stay tuned for news experience like no other. A statement made by an individual from the Boer community has surfaced, expressing a clear stance against unity in our country. Let's take a look.
There's a certain amount of people which wants to create a nation of unity. And then there's us, the Boers. We don't take part in this, and we're not going to. And we're not going to go away.
All right. There is certain number of people who want national unity in this country. Now, we the Boer, we are not going to take part in this national unity. Now, this is another group, right? The Boer, right? Now, these people think they see what Malcolm X said. The conservative and the liberal, they all have the same agenda. Look, just because these people call themselves Boer and then the other people call themselves DA, Democratic Alliance, or whatsoever, and other people call themselves Days, at the end of the day, they just divide, right? But they all have one national interest. They all have one common interest. All like black people, we have this group, we have this group, we have this group, we have this group. But when it comes to one common interest of ours, we don't agree. Just because we have this group, we always want to go with the interest of that group, the interest of this group, the interest of this group. But you see, white people, non-white, and I mean non-black, they can have different groups. As long as it comes to their interest, they know that that particular thing It is the interest of this group, this group, this group, this group. They all come together. Now, this is the boy that spoke, right? Now, the issue here is the lady said an individual. No, he's not an individual. The reason why he's not an individual because every one of them can come up there to speak. That's why he said we. And then he said individual. Listen to the English. We, the boy. So he is the spokesperson for the boy, for that entity, for that organization, for that race, for those people that was set up there to speak on their behalf. We black people, we fail to understand or realize these things. We speak English, we understand English, but we don't. The man clearly said, we. And then you come and say, oh, an individual. I'm sorry, my sister, from coming at you, but sometimes we have to bring these things out for our people to understand. This guy clearly spoke English and said we. Mean that he's representing someone there. He's representing an entity. He did not say, I'm speaking as an individual. Or he did not say, oh, that's how I think. The man is telling you there are people who believe in national unity. But we, the boy, we don't agree. We do subscribe to it, to national unity. And we will never subscribe to national unity. Now, the other group, the DA said it indirectly. All right? He said, any government, that included the EFF, will never work with any government that want to nationalize mines and banks. What that means is they are not for national unity as well. What that means is they don't care about national unity. They care about their interest, white minority interest. They don't care about national unity.
And we the rightful owners of this land. So
okay, this is one of the things that baffle me about black people. How dumb and stupid we are. Let me say this. Had it been that, I mean, folks, pay attention to this, and you will agree with me. Whenever a black man is among white and speaking about how black people or African people are going to unite to tackle freedom, how they're going to unite to take back what belongs to them, do you see white people laughing? That's the time you see white people get serious. They don't laugh because they take it serious. They don't laugh. They take it serious of what we're saying. What we say, they don't take it as a joke. They take it serious. And then you can see their face change. And then you can see that they can look at one another's faces. And then even the black man that is speaking in favor of African, they can actually look in at their face. And their reaction actually can mean, do you think this really going to happen? You don't see them laughing. They take it serious. But we black people, African, whenever these people are speaking the truth about what is in their interest, about what they think should happen, we black people, we take it as fun and laugh with it. We take it as fun and laugh with it. And let me tell you this, they love it. They love it that anytime they speak what is in their interest, and we laugh. Because that means we are not serious and we are not going to do anything about it. And you see, it's facts. Anytime we speak, these people never laugh. Why? Why people don't laugh when we speak of what we think should be ours? They don't laugh. They take it serious. You never see them laughing in our group. And then, in fact, that's the time they look at each other's faces. And when they look at each other's faces, you know what that means? They are telling each other with eye contact, take note. That's why they tell each other. Whenever black people talk about national unity or togetherness, or whenever black people talk about wanting to empower black people and whatsoever, White people look at each other's faces. That means they are telling each other to take note. That's what I mean. Take note. They don't laugh. They get serious. That means they are taking note. But black people, we are so dumb and stupid. These people speaking what they think and what they will do. And then we laughing.
So that doesn't mean we doesn't see the sunshine over other people. Okay, if you go back in history.
Do you see his analysis? After he said that, and they're laughing, right? And they're booing, right? And he explained himself. And what black people fail to understand here is that, look, they don't know, man. This man explained himself that, listen, I know you are laughing. I know you are booing me. That doesn't mean what I said here. It doesn't mean we don't see the sunshine over black people. It doesn't mean we don't see black people living in slum community. It doesn't mean we don't see black people, or we don't see Judah Malema fighting for, how they call it, nationalization of land and mine. It doesn't mean we don't see it. It doesn't mean we don't see how black people are suffering, how black South Africans are suffering. It don't mean we don't see it. We see it. But what is at stake here is white people interest. We are not going to compromise our interest because we want to see black people rise. That's what he meant. We are not going to compromise our interest because we want to see black people leave poverty. We are not going to compromise our interest because we want to see black people live out of the slum community. Or we are not going to compromise our interest because we want to see black people have the same equality as white. This is about our interest. This is about white people. To the extent this guy is lying, this idiot is lying to say we own the land. Do you see how these people take control? Even if they know they are lying. Do you see how these people speak fearlessly? Do you see how they speak with boldness? And you have these idiots of an African sitting over there laughing. Sorry to say this, but it is the reality. We have to speak like this sometimes. This man is speaking what they think and what they continue to do. And you sitting over there laughing, and you're not looking at other African faces to take note, and you there laughing, and you think this man was a comedian?
You would actually see that the Boers have negotiated with the tribal chiefs and the kings, and we have see them as equal, and we have give them their peace. Okay. Now
carry on. We can hear you.
Okay, another error. Now, what this man is trying to tell us here is, you black people, why you see us equal, we don't see it as equal, and we will now be equal. He said, we have worked with other people. We have given them peace. We are giving them, how they call it, right. Isn't that enough for them? That's what he's trying to say. And he's actually trying to say the equality that you want is not going to happen. It's not going to come from us. This man is making it clear. And you see black people, bunch of black people sitting over there laughing and think he's been a comedian, and they are laughing and they cross their legs, and they're laughing. And this man is clearly telling you black folks, if you think you're going to ask for peace or for equality with white people, it's not going to happen. We are not going to give it equality, because equality to us means we are going to lose our power, and we love being in power. We love being in power over your race. We love being in power to treat you. We love being in power to tell you who you are, to describe you. We love being in power. We enjoy seeing you living in slow community. We enjoy seeing you begging white people because we see ourselves as superior. We see ourselves as the Ferrari of the universe. So we love it. We are not going to give you equality. If you think we're going to give it to you, you damn lie. You better work together as black people. You better unite together as black people. If you think you're going to unite with us, it's lie. It's not going to happen. No white person should come to you and tell you, say, we are going to unite. The only time he's trying to tell you, the time we're going to come to you to unite is when you begin to wake up. And we don't want you to wake up. And then we will come and lie to you that, oh, let us unite. Oh, this war is you know, make this a peaceful place. And then that's the time they will come and sing Michael Jackson's song. A peaceful, I don't even know how the song, but this war is a peaceful place. And how Michael Jackson sing it. We all can live in harmony. That's the time they will come and sing it to you. Whenever black people want to wake up, that's the time you see white people singing this music. But when you sing it to them, they do not listen. And this guy is telling you clear, you black folks, and you're sitting there laughing that he's a comedian, like he's playing film, and he's telling you, if you think equality is going to come from white people to you people, that's lie. He's clearly telling you, this land we own it because our forefather came and kill you people and kill your forefather. Our forefather came and looted your forefather. Our forefather came and made you your forefather slave. And then came back after 100 years of captivity in overseas or enslavement overseas. And they came back and they conquered this land. They kill your people. So they fought for it. So we are not going to give it back to you people because our forefathers killed you people before they took this land and they gave it to us. So if you think we just come to share it with you, that's lie. He's actually trying to tell you black folks, nigger, to wake up. You feel nigger? He's telling you, nigger, wake up. And stop laughing. I am not a comedian. And I am not here as an individual. I am just a spokesperson.
If we want to share one country, we must first accept the realities.
Help me understand something.
Now, you heard what he said? If we first want to share one country or have one country, we must first realize or understand the reality. What is that reality? Is it black people that need to understand reality or white people that need to understand reality? But his reality he's talking about here is, first of all, this guy is saying, right, they are now waiting to create a government of national unity. They are not going to work. And then the DA is saying they are not going to create a national unity because they are not going to share the land, the resources, the mine with black people, with black folks, because they do not deserve it. These are they saying, right? And then this may come and say, now, if you want us to create national unity, you have to first understand the reality. What is that reality? That reality is black people. You have to understand where you belong. And you have to understand where white people belong, where white people are supposed to be. And you know your place. So be at your place. So if you at your place, we will all live. If you can take command from us, if you can listen to us, how we want for things to be, and now you come and telling us how they call it, nationalize the mine, nationalize the bank, nationalize the economy for black people to have land equal as white people. Understand your place. If you want to live in one harmony, if you want to have a, how they call it, national government, understand your place. Don't come and tell us we want, how they call it, equality. Don't tell us share the mine. Don't tell us share the mineral. Don't tell us that. We will feed you. You have to understand your place that you are nobody. You have to understand your place that you are Negro. You have to understand your place that you are not a human being. That's what he meant. You have to understand. There is no national unity. There is no national unity. What is coming, Black South Africa? What is coming? You see, this is what happened. When you are being oppressed and you have few of your people in position of power who actually in reality do not have power but take direction from the same person that oppress you, you will end up hating your own people because you will be like, black people are the one in power. Of course. So then how can we stay living like that? And that is why you will hear some black Africans saying, right? You will hear some black African or some Africans saying, we are our own problem, not white people. White people, we prefer white people to come back and be this and be this. But the reality here is, white people are the people that still control the means of production and distribution in Africa. They control the mind, they control your government, your economy. So they are still in control. Just because you have a black face, that does not mean it's the black face that is controlling everything. No, that's what they call neo-colonialism. So the reason why we blame our leader is because when they get in power, they forget to know that unity will be the one to liberate us. Unity will be the one to take us to where we want to be. That's why they get it wrong. If only they can work with their people. Look at Abraham Traore. What is the money Abraham Traore have? What is the finance, the billion, the $1 million he have? He do not have money in Western banks, because if he have it there, we would have heard on news that his assets have been frozen. He have nothing, but he's working with his people. And I can tell you, that's why the imperialists do not want. I can tell you, 10 years from now, Burkina Faso in Africa going to look different. He's going to change the dynamic. And now, all our African leaders, all our revolutionary leaders, all our people in Africa will see and be like, you know what? We got to take Abraham Traore model. What he did, he had nothing. But you see, that's the power of working with your people. That's the power of trying to convince them. Even America do it. What do they have to give to their people? The only thing is they created a system where their people have to work. Now, our people who have done it, Nkrumah who have done it, if they were not going to suppress him, okay? Patrick Lumumba in DRC could have done it if they were not going to kill him. He could have created a system that will benefit the people. Thomas Sankara could have done it in Burkina Faso. If they were not going to kill him, he could have created a system. So the US and Europe, the colonizer, indirectly or directly, they kill all of our leaders that could have created a system. But in reality, the United States, they have a system where they can convince their people, for their people to believe in them, because they use their media. And that's why Abraham Traore is weak away. He always makes sure to keep talking to his people and educating his people about the imperial, about the neo-colonialists. Do not let them fool you. They will come. They will want to make it go against me. Or come. They will want to do this. Do not fall for it. You know where you've been. We have suffered. Let us work together. Let us work together to change this country, to make this country better. I can only do it because of you, and you can only do it because of me, and we can only do it because we have to understand our one national unity. We have to have a one goal set. We have to have a one mindset, and that's how America do it through their media. And that is what happened to Abraham Traore, where he have gone through 7 or 8 coup attempt, assassination attempt, but he all have failed. And part of those reasons is, even though he had been helped by Russia with technological system, but it's also because of his people who are protecting him too. His people are also security to him. His people know that this is the only man we have. So we have to protect him. We have to be with him. Even if we will not get to the promised land in this generation, but let us get to the promised land through the next generation. So let us prepare it. And that is what most African leaders fail to do. And that's why they fail. So even as much as when we're saying that our African leaders are the people, there's that thing, yes, to some extent they are there, they are the one. Because we see them in power, while the imperialists sitting at the back, but they control our economy. But equally so, the imperialists succeed because our leaders are greedy. They want to have banks outside of their country, in America, in Europe. They have banks there so that when they leave power, they come to Europe and America and say, enjoy and live life and send their children their debt. So that's how we blame them in those aspects, in those perspectives, because they fail to work with their people. They fail to understand that without working with their people, nothing will be done in Africa. They fail to understand that without unity with their people and coming together, nothing will be done. So I am not just saying national unity is not going to work because of my opinion, but 1994, the first democratic elected government through Nelson Mandela, where how they call it, AUMD de Klerk was the president for apartheid, who saw himself as how they call it, national or co-relational government or something. What did it happen? Did we see national unity? So basically that, because it was that government has spent 30 years, the ANC. So 30 years, did you see national unity? So for you to say this is a new political platform whatsoever for a new nation building, no. Since 1994 up to 2024, 1994 to 2024, I repeat, 1994 to 2024, a national unity of government was formed from 1994 because it is the same political party that been in power. From 1994 to 2024, it was the same national unity that been in power. What have that national unity done to change the livelihood of the people? Have they united? Have they come together? No. So how can you come and tell us, say it is a new political, how they call it, season to have national unity? But in reality, national unity was since 1994 under Nelson Mandela when he took power. They came to power with national unity. And it is our ANC that have led the country for 30 years to 2024. National unity, they're going, it was sound that time. Why did it not work? And then come by in 2024 and say, oh, we are trying to form national unity. When they see national unity that been going on. Folks, you see why it is good to know your story. It is good to research. It is good to actually go find. If not, a lot of people will be going, oh yeah, so I think that's a new beginning. No, it is not a new beginning. National unity been going since 1994 when Nelson Mandela came to power. That's why a lot of times people say, oh, Nelson Mandela failed to do this. Nelson Mandela did not do this. He betrayed the people. Now you understand why people feel that Nelson Mandela betrayed them. Nelson Mandela did not do that, did not do that, did not do that, because there was an agreement, there was a contract signed. Nelson Mandela, this government or whatsoever unity, national unity we're going to find, you're not going to take land from us. You're not going to take the mind from us. You're not going to, how they call it, marginalize the white minority. We're not going to share power with the how they call it, masses of black. No. Economy is not going to live from, or we're going to control the economy. That's why it's a national unity. And that is what the DA said. They are not going to work with the ANC, even if the ANC want to do or want to nationalize the mines and bank. They are not going to work with it. So, folks, this national unity is not a new one. It took place 1994 to 2024. National unity has been going on because it was signed in 1994 with the apartheid president AUMD de Klerk with Nelson Mandela. In 1994, it is the CANC that been going on. It never changed. No different political party came into change to say, oh, this is a new beginning because, I did this new president. No, it is the CANC that been in government, in power, since that time up to this time. When they had how they call it, government of unity or nation of unity. That ain't been going on. So how can you come back and say government of unity when I say unity been going on? What is the unity Blacks of Africa have saying? So don't come and lie to us and say, oh, this is a new beginning, this is a new policy, this is a new government because we have to have government of national unity. That lie. The government of national unity happened 1994. South Africa. If only you can see what I'm seeing coming. That's the last video, folks. We're already done. So let's just play this and we
On June 16, 1976, over 10,000 student protesters flooded the streets of Soweto, South Africa. For 28 years, South Africans had been living under apartheid, a strict policy of segregation that barred the country's Black majority from skilled, high-paying jobs, quality education, and much more. And in 1974, the government announced schools would be forced to teach many subjects in Afrikaans, a language used primarily by the nation's white ruling elites. But when protesters rose up to fight this injustice, the government's response was swift. Armed police officers turned their weapons onto the crowd, and over the following days they killed over 150 students, including victims as young as 13. Even before apartheid, South Africa's long history of racial violence had already cost countless Black Africans their jobs, homes, and lives. Beginning in the 1600s, first Dutch and later British settlers colonized the nation, displacing local populations from their ancestral lands. Over the following centuries, Black Africans were segregated onto so-called native reserves. And by the 20th century, that meant 70% of the population was living on roughly 13% of the country's land. Deprived of their traditional livelihoods and seeking to escape these overpopulated regions, Black Africans began migrating to white-controlled areas. There, they worked for low wages on white-owned farms and mines, alongside the descendants of enslaved and indentured workers from across Africa and Asia. By 1948, this exploited labor force was a primary driver of South Africa's booming economy. But economists argued that continued growth required a stable, educated, and urbanized African labor force. The ruling United Party accepted this logic, but the rival National Party argued such a workforce would threaten the white ruling class, naming their campaign apartheid, the Afrikaans word for separateness. The National Party won the 1948 elections. And once in power, they began forcibly relocating millions of Africans back to the reserves. Under apartheid, Black workers were considered temporary visitors in white areas. They were restricted to specific zones, and their trade unions received no official recognition. The government also abolished mixed-race universities, outlawed mixed marriages, segregated recreational spaces, and purged the non-white population from the voters' roll. Within parliament at this time, apartheid only had a small group of outspoken opponents, but outside the government, 3 political groups were leading a popular resistance against the regime: the Communist Party, which was then legally banned in 1950, their allies in the African National Congress, and later, a splinter group called the Pan-Africanist Congress. Despite some ideological differences, all 3 groups worked to mobilize the masses against apartheid by non-violent methods. But the National Party wasn't as restrained. On March 21, 1960, policemen massacred demonstrators at a PAC rally. And within weeks, the ANC and PAC were outlawed. These events radicalized anti-apartheid leaders, and in December of 1961, Nelson Mandela and other ANC and Communist Party activists established the resistance's armed wing. While the conflict grew increasingly violent, the 1960s saw consistent economic growth throughout South Africa. The National Party attributed this to the success of apartheid, but it was actually due to further exploitation. Employers were illegally hiring Black laborers for positions affluent white workers didn't want to fill. And since this prosperity was flowing disproportionately to the ruling white minority, the government happily turned a blind eye. Meanwhile, the National Party leveraged global anti-communist sentiment to demonize its adversaries. In 1963, they tried Mandela and 10 others for advancing communism and training recruits in guerrilla warfare. 8 of the defendants were sentenced to life in prison, and many remaining anti-apartheid leaders were forced into exile. Over the next decade, a generation of student activists rose up to continue the fight, led in part by Steve Biko and the South African Students' Organization. Following the Soweto massacre, student protesters spread nationwide, but police violently smothered these demonstrations, killing over 600 protesters by early 1977. That same year, Biko was taken into police custody and killed in a brutal assault. In response to this violence, the international community finally called for an end to apartheid, with some countries enacting trade embargoes against South Africa. The state attempted to launch a reform process, creating separate parliaments for the country's white, non-white, and Indian populations. But the exclusion of the African majority led to more nationwide rioting. So when F.W. de Klerk, a longtime supporter of apartheid, came to power in 1989, he concluded the only way to ensure white survival was to end the policy. On February 2nd, 1990, de Klerk shocked the world by unbanning the ANC, releasing Mandela, and calling for constitutional negotiations. 4 years later, in the nation's inaugural all-inclusive elections, Mandela became South Africa's first Black president. But today, the national trauma of apartheid can still be keenly felt, and many wounds from this period have yet to fully heal.
All right, let me make a quick point here. So there are a few instances you heard a narrator saying, declare free, Mandela 1990 or whatsoever, right? He did not do it because he wanted to do it. It happened because of the resistance of Black South African. Sometimes some of these documentary, right? They do it in a way that they don't want to educate you to apply the same thing that was applied back then and it worked. They don't want to educate you to apply the same thing that was applied back then that worked. So they were saying this time, declare the same racist. So they try to say you should sit and wait for the white man to come and give you the freedom, to come and liberate you, but don't do anything. But the reality here is declare free Nelson Mandela, not because he wanted to free Nelson Mandela. He had no option at that time because Black South Africans said, if we all going to die, you will kill us. And because they killed massively, of South African, and the international community saw it, the international world saw it, how the apartheid government had the British government, and along with United States support and Canadian support that were killing South African, and they saw that international community have seen it, the world have seen it, right? Right? It forced them to say, you know what? Let us free Nelson Mandela. Let us free Nelson Mandela. That's how they free him. It was not because he just got one money and be like, you know what? I love African people. You know what? Let me free Nelson Mandela so that African people can get freedom. Okay? Then they just got it and went free Nelson Mandela, boom, and then Nelson Mandela became president. No way. That's not how it happened. They did it because of the resistance of black people. And the same thing happened here. That Abraham Lincoln just freed the slave and thing. They always put that nonsense in history, in documentary. Abraham Lincoln freed the slave because of this. No, it was because of the resistance of the black people, of African people, that made these people to take a stand, that made these people to say, you know what, if we don't do this, look, white people always study what will happen to them. White people see beyond. If you see white people taking actions, that means they have seen beyond what's going to happen if they don't against them, that will affect them. If they know it will not affect them, they won't take action. They have nothing to do. If you see them taking action, they have seen that it's going to affect them. So that's how Abraham Lincoln saw that it will affect white people. That's how he took the pen and paper. He didn't just wake up like, okay, I feel sorry for black people. I'm going to take pen and paper and do this. No, there was pressure mounted on him. So FW declared, they not just wake up and say, let us free Nelson Mandela. Because the world have seen how inhumane they were. And the world, in fact, the world was already blaming them like, what you're doing in South Africa is bad. Because there were all nations who did not support them. So that's how you saw declared freeing Nelson Mandela. But he didn't just wake up to go free Nelson Mandela because they were him. No, these people were not him. They were doubtful, and they are still. In this current time, you see them saying it. We are now fighting for national unity. National unity been in power since Mandela, the ANC, to 2024. Then how can they come and tell you national unity and you agree? That means you do not even know your own history. And that's what Michael Garvey spoke about. But anyway, this is today's presentation. As the topic says, reason led to the outcome of the South African election 2024. These are the reasons that we just lay out here. And that's the facts. Nobody can debate on it. That's the reason. No opinion. We bring it, we show it, and we give it out. There is no national unity. Because since 1994, it's not the first time. But you see, do you see how the media bring a story? Oh, this is a new beginning. This is national unity building. But national unity it started from 1994 to 2024. It been going on because it's the same party that you signed in negotiation of national unity with. It is the same party that been in power. How can you come and say national unity? If it was maybe ANC that came to power, I will understand. But again, we're going to let the EFF know that you came to power, right? But national unity been in power since 1994 to 2024. What are you going to do different? Is a national unity going to be different? But again, it's not going to be national unity because they already said they are not going to nationalize mines and banks. They are not going to give power to black people. And as you heard the individual in there. So folks, this is how it is. They tell about white people, right? Do you know why white people have different organizations? They do it so that they can create chapters. Okay, so that they can recruit more people. That's how you see them have different entities. But at the end of the day, they will all work together in their interests. So that's why you have the board, you have the DA, you have the Afrikaner, and then you still have the apartheid. And where they have the apartheid state and whatsoever government still going on. All of them work together at the end of the day. They all work together. But you see, black people, we have this, 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 which of course is supposed to be in our favor because it's like having chapters all over and recruiting people. But at the end of the day, when it is something to unite us, we don't want to do it. We always want to say, how about the other people? How about we can't leave the other people behind? We always want to hold people and carry them along with us. But people don't hold us to carry us along with them. They'll always leave us behind. But we always want to say, no, how about the other people? How about the other people? We don't work together, even though we create chapters, but we don't work together. We work individually. And that's what always affecting us. Anyway, This is today's presentation. There is no national unity in South Africa. It's not going to happen. Okay? There's no national unity because that national unity been happening since 1994 under this ANC all the way to 2024. And there have not been national unity, right? And that was the outcome, the result of the, how they call it, the 2024 South African, how they call it, national election. That's why it went this way. It was already rigged. The people have already planned and know what to do. Okay, so people were just hitting their hey, oh, election or election. No, it was already planned, it was already put in place how it should be played out because we do not control the economy in Africa, nothing, blah, 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 whatsoever. That's it. Until we can come together and unite. Until we can say, you know what, let us forget about the other people and fight for our interests. Nelson Mandela said when they asked him, he said, hell no, it's not going to happen. Well, anyway, South Africa, get ready for what is coming. Yesterday, you drove Nigeria out because of a colonial name. You say, oh, they are Nigerian. You drove Zimbabwe out. You did not see them as African, but rather you say, oh, they are Zimbabwe. You drove other nationality out. You didn't see them as African. You say, oh, they have a colonial name. They are this. Get ready for what is coming. Peace.